Yo! What's going on, guys? Good, not afternoon, it's actually morning. It's 11:11, by the way. So that should mean you should smack up the like button. 100 likes on today's video. Let's get it. Subscribe if you're new. Today, we're going to make a video on, reasons why the Bitcoin bottom might not be in, right? We know the other day we made a video, the reasons why the bottom might be in. Well, let's talk about why it might not be in today. So, let's get it. Let's get it. So let's jump right on in here. So, what do we got going on here? Well, basically, this is basically just the two bear markets overlaid, and the common complaint on why the bottom might not be in for Bitcoin is simply because, it's not as low as it went in the past, right? I get the argument. Those two previous bear markets were very, very similar. This bear market up to this point has been very, very similar, right? I mean, you can't argue it. We look at where the price action is now. It's right where it was in the two previous bear markets when you overlay the two previous bear markets, right? Blue is the 2014 bear market. Yellow is the 2018 bear market. You overlay them, look where Bitcoin price is, right where it should be. Now, the first reason why people say the Bitcoin bottom is not in is because typically in bear markets, Bitcoin drops, around 85% from the highs, and also bottoms a year after the previous high. Okay, so we know Bitcoin topped at 69K in November of 2021, right? If you take where Bitcoin should bottom in theory, right, 52 weeks out from that high, and about the same percentage wise, which is either, from the closes about 80% or 85%, would put Bitcoin in between, in theory, 11K and 14K, right? Give or take a few $1,000s. It's a few $1,000s among friends, $300 among friends, right? So it would put it somewhere in between 11K and 14K if it was to be like the two previous bear markets. So that's the first common, the common thing about the bears. They like to say, all right, it has to go down this much because that's what it's done in the past. I get it. That's what we've done so far. If you look at what the two previous bear markets did before, we're pretty much where we were, and we went sideways right here. Right? We went sideways for a couple months in both of these bear markets before end up getting that one more big move to the downside that pushes us back down here. Now, what could be the catalyst to bring us back down there? Well, maybe it's the September rate hike. Maybe we get a higher rate hike. Maybe the CPI print in September ends up being terrible, which makes us have that one big, more giant move back down to, like we said, 11 to 14K range is what the bears are looking at. I get it, right? It is what it is. I'm not going to complain about it. And that's what the chart is saying based off the two previous bear markets, okay? Going into the next point of why the bottom might not be in, because we know a lot of indicators have shown that there's a good chance that it is, right? Whether it's the pi cycle bottom flipping, whether it's the hash ribbons buy signal popping up, whether it's where you are in the logarithmic regression curve, whether it's, just looking at basically the capitulation that we had over the last 3 months of being the worst 3 months in Bitcoin's history, okay? Which is usually meant after capitulation, you see upside, okay? What's another reason why? Well, I think we have to go outside of Bitcoin for that. And if we go outside of Bitcoin, right, obviously the S&P still hasn't broken out, right? You're still getting these lower highs, 1, 2, 3 touches on the S&P. So nothing's really changed on the S&P, right? I mean, you just continue making lower highs, lower lows. Time will tell, right? Time will tell. Now, the last dip that we had on the S&P did come back down to the 200 EMA. So I wanted to go back and look at the past and see, when the S&P has bounced off the 200 EMA and what it normally means for us, because we know Bitcoin's correlated to the stock markets. We don't like it. That's just the nature of the beast, right? It's going to be correlated to the stock markets almost perfectly. So we go back in the past. When's times that we've broken the 200 EMA? Well, we did it in March of 2020. I don't care about that. That was a completely different issue that we already know. We're gonna throw that out the window. So 2018, we had some interesting things going on. We did come back down to the 200 EMA, and we ended up bottoming at that 200 EMA. So that was sort of one time that we bounced off there. I wanted to go back in the past. We bounced off it in 2016. If we keep going, we went slightly below it in 2011. But the big one I want to look at is 2008 and 2000. The bear markets that everyone wants to compare this to, because those have been times where you saw either a housing crash or you see the internet bubble back in 2000, where the S&P went down significantly. If we take a look we're pretty much doing the same thing we did in 2008 up to this point, where we're getting these lower highs. One touch, we bounced off the, it's actually interesting. We bounced off the 200 EMA, came back up, tested it again, came back down, tested it again before a big capitulation to the downside, right? So we basically got one touch, two touches, three touches. If you look at where we're sitting right now on the S&P, and I see a lot of people making this case for, you know, one giant capitulation to the downside, which resets everything, okay? Which would probably mean Bitcoin goes lower if we're looking at reasons why Bitcoin could go lower, right? You have 1, 2, 3 touches, you bounce off the 200 EMA. Is this going to be the point right here where the S&P starts coming back down hard, okay, after that third touch? That's what happened in, like we said, that's what happened in 2008. If we go back to 2000, where we also broke that 200 EMA, right? You guys can see it was pretty much when we broke that 200 EMA and we couldn't get back above it, found a resistance. That's when we really started to come down hard. If you look back at 2000, it was pretty much the same thing, right? So it doesn't show you all the data, but basically it extends out like this, right? So we got one hit, we got two hits, we got three hits, and that's when we bounce back up. But up here, it was actually like kind of like this, like that. You guys can see we pretty much did the same thing again. Let's take a look, okay, on this trend line. We got one hit, came back up, got a second hit, came back up, and that's when we broke that 200 EMA, and we had that big move to the downside before having a little bit of a rally, okay? So, once again, the three hits off the trend line, the break of the 200 EMA, that's been the big test for BTC. And a lot of bears are saying the stock markets have lower to go, which I would not be opposed to that, because we know that the 2020, 2021 rally for the stock market was absolutely insane. One of the most parabolic times in history there. You know, the S&P in itself going from 2K up into almost 5K in the span of 2 years, which is insane for an asset that big. So are you going to see that move up below the 200 EMA? That's something that we have to watch. It's what a lot of bears are calling for. It's another reason why we could go lower. The third reason, the DXY, right? The strength of the dollar against other currencies. Euro, we're getting crushed to the downside, which has caused the dollar to go up. Now, we got a lot of people calling for the double top on the DXY. Okay, a lot of people calling for that double top. There's some bearish divergence on the daily. Okay, we've seen a little bit of a pullback until then. I think it's too early to say the dollar has topped out. And this is another reason why Bitcoin could go lower. All right, we saw a little bit of a same thing here where everyone was calling a double top right here in this region, right here. Right, we had the rise up, you had the rise up, second hit, you pulled back a little bit just before going higher. Okay, and it was the same thing. You had this daily bearish div. Okay, lower highs on the RSI, higher highs in price action. You get a little bit of a dip, but just rose higher. Right, you got higher highs in price action, lower highs on the RSI. Is it going to be one of those things you just see another little dip before coming back up? That's what we got to watch out for here. All right, so I think it's too early to call the DXY. I mean, if you really zoom out on the longer term charts on the DXY and look left, there's really, I mean, yes, you have a previous peak kind of where you're at right now, but if I would say if this level breaks, I mean, you could be seeing 120, which would bring Bitcoin down, because you know Bitcoin's inversely correlated to the DXY, just the opposite of the stock market, right? So we'll watch this, we'll see where this goes. A lot of people calling for a double top. To me, the scenario is something like this, where you get 3 higher highs and you get 3 lower highs on the RSI, okay? So basically, it would mean one more move to the upside. I think that's the best case scenario for the bulls right now, is that one more move to the upside for the DXY, 3 higher highs, 3 lower highs, get that bearish dip on the weekly time frame, which is more significant than the daily, and that's going to give you a bigger correction to the downside, all right? So once again, we'll continue to watch this as we go, but that could be another reason why Bitcoin has not bottomed yet. And to be reality, most other indicators you look at, right, on-chain indicators, any of those, like the Pure multiple, you know, a liquid supply held, all those show that the bottom should be in theory, right? We already talked about the pi cycle bottom indicator, the hash ribbon SPY indicator, logarithm regression curve, you name it, right? You name it. Going back to the 200 SMA on the weekly, you name it. I mean, we did all these things. So Now it's a matter of we sit back and wait and see the price action and see what it brings for us. All right, so let's sit and wait. Let's sit and wait and see where we come out on the other side, guys. So I'll catch you later on the stream, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the other channel. Adios, guys. Smack up that like button. 100 likes on today's video would be awesome. All right, or I'll come after you. I'm gonna come through the screen. All right, peace out, guys. Peace.